Hello, scholars. Walter Bowne here. We're going to be talking about Transcendentalism, which is an offshoot of Romanticism. So it's still in the same vein, it's still part of the same tree, just a really big trunk in American literature off the main trunk, the main tree of Romanticism. So let's talk about Transcendentalism. Maybe get your handy dandy notebooks out. Here we have the three big all stars of Concord. We have our boy Nathaniel Hawthorne looking very romantic there in his youth. Up at the top, we have the grandfather, in a way, of American literature, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and below his protege, the Luke Skywalker of them all. Probably the most famous is Henry David Thoreau, and we'll be getting to his Walden in a little bit. All right, so here's a definition of Transcendentalism. It was a literary movement, philosophical movement, centered in Concord and Boston, which was the prominent it was prominent in intellectual life and cultural life in New England from 1836, when Nature was published, until just before the Civil War in 1861. And if you can see the little graphic up there, I didn't make this, we have God, nature, man, all connected. So if you think about Pearl, that's a pretty good idea that, we have man, Pearl, woman, nature, and of course, she doesn't go to church because she doesn't need church because she's already connected with the spirit. All right, this is a little bit of repeat with the old manse. This is the house where Scarlet Letter was composed. It was Emerson's house, ancestral house. And the American Revolution started, really, the second battle, Concord. A mile and a half up the road was Lexington. So in this one locale, we have the birthplace of the American Revolution, a political revolution. We also have a literary revolution. Here is Walden Pond. There's me in my younger, thinner days at a replica of Henry David Thoreau's desk. And if you see right here, this little cabin, this is a replica of the house that Henry David Thoreau lived in for 2 years and 2 months, that he built himself with help of neighbors with used material. And this was on Emerson's land. So in a way, Thoreau was a squatter, but of course Emerson agreed to this. So Thoreau wanted to put the theories of Emerson to the test, and he lived in the woods for 2.5 years and wrote about it. Okay, so we see nature as God. All right, so I have here a Wanderer Above the Snows, I believe it's called, which is the cover of Frankenstein that you'll be reading next year. So we should live close to nature, for it is our greatest teacher. Nature is emblematic, and our understanding is language and lessons can bring us closer to God. In fact, nature is God or equals God. The words nature, God, universe, oversoul, etc. all mean the same thing when we're talking about Transcendentalism. This is what the Hindus believe. They call it Brahma. Brahma, or God, is in everything, right? But nothing in particular. Right, so it's everything and it's nothing. There's lots of irony going on here. All right, another idea is God is omnipresent. God is everywhere and in everything. So there's no need for specific religions or churches. Right, so when Emily Dickinson says some keep the Sabbath by going to church, I keep it by going into the garden and listening to the sparrows and to the birds. She's not being sacrilegious. I mean, that's the idea, is that some people find God in church. I just don't. And I can find it in my garden. I can find it on a mountaintop. I can find it in the woods, as we see Pearl. The Transcendentalists did not believe in organized religion because they wanted the direct relationship with God, not one through a pastor or a priest. They thought organized religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, etc., were all just made up by people anyway, right? So this was radical for 1836, if you think about it. Emerson left the pulpit, was a Unitarian minister, left, and he created his own manifesto in 1836, and we're going to be studying nature. All right, the Transcendentalists believed, let me see if I can get this better for you, that man was divine. All right, yeah, I can't see here. So here we have is this idea of this transparent eyeball. All right, then since nature is divine, we are literally creatures of nature. So we are also divine. So that's a syllogism, right? If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals B, right? In a sense, we are part or particles of God, according to Emerson. Right? As we know from the Romantics, and all these writers are Romantics, intuition is so important. Since God is within us, every person intuits or has an essential understanding of right or wrong, morality. We don't need to learn morality from so-called holy books, laws, or society. Okay, so if you think what got Dimsdale in trouble, and what got Proctor in trouble, and what got a lot of these characters in trouble, it was these laws that were written for ages ago. But Emerson will write, we need new laws for new men, right? And Whitman will say, you know what, the stuff that was written, let it be, and that's a good guide, but we kind of need an update. All right, here's the idea of intuition. It's like knowledge that we see is the tip of the iceberg. It's beneath the iceberg that contains the power. And when Einstein says that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant, we have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So the Transcendentalists make us go back to the idea that of this intuitive mind, or that is the highest form of intelligence, transcending all other skills, according to Sylvia Clare, who I'm not really sure who she is, but I like the quote. She might be a wacko, I'm not sure. All right, here's a big one in Emerson, and also in Thoreau, of course, because he lives by himself for 2.5 years, building his own house, is the idea of self-reliance. Our intuition and natural instincts guide us to do the right thing. In nature, we are uncorrupted. It is only when we let society influence us that we start to conform and hence be corrupted. All right, a lot of things that we've been reading about so far fall right into this. All right, Emerson and Thoreau are going to take it to the next extreme. Hester is successful because she was self-reliant. Pearl was successful because she was self-reliant. The idea is to become self-reliant. You can make it. You have what it takes to be successful. And we're going to read Emerson's great essay, Self-Reliance. Society is a source of corruption. Okay, so we have these kids bullying, poor Pearl, throwing mud on her, and conformity kills individuality. If we all are to follow our own free will and listen to our intuition, we would be all much better off. Transcendentalists didn't believe that we needed artificial laws, customs, fashions, or values. That's what gets us into trouble. All right, so society is oftentimes the source of corruption. And here we have society being pretty corrupt, all right? We got genocide happening. We got the Scarlet Letter and Pearl with the public shame, all right? And of course, we have the ultimate Dark Father, Darth Vader, right? Idealism, right? We didn't get so much of this in Scarlet Letter, but in Hawthorne, in Emerson and Thoreau, we definitely have this idealistic spirit that human beings are naturally good at their core. But again, it's society that corrupts us. Human beings left to their own devices will seek good. Now, you can totally debate this, and there'll be totally a lot of things in this philosophy that you guys might disagree with, but that's great. You're gonna be able to write about this and challenge these writers when we do something called a dialectic, when you have a dialogue with one of these writers, testing and quizzing their beliefs, which is a lot of fun. All right, materialism is bad. All right, striving for material goods is worthless and an unhealthy pursuit. Think of Governor Bellingham with all his worldly possessions. All right, it is totally superficial. Money is evil because it causes us to place artificial and false value on objects and people. Thoreau will go over this time and time and time again when he says, let your needs be what you can count on one hand. Right, you don't need as much as you think you need, and it just causes you to be miserable. All right, it's the American way, right, to accumulate a bunch of stuff, right? I'd like some more of these things, please. And of course, Vogue magazine makes us all feel stupid because this girl's been airbrushed. No one looks like that. And of course, American consumerism is the American way. Transcendentalism says, no, there's a better way. Think of Yoda, if you know Star Wars. Yoda lives in a hut, in Dagobah, he doesn't need much of anything, right? And he's happy. So think of like these wise men or wise women. Think of Jesus. Think of Socrates. Think of all these different characters and people from history who were spiritual guides or messiahs. They didn't need anything. Jesus said, give up all your worldly possessions and follow me, right? And, people did. And technology is bad. Sorry, I know you're using technology to watch this, but they really thought technology was the path to destruction. And if you watch enough Black Mirror, you know that is to be the case. Advances in technology only causes us problems. For example, we build the railroad so we can go. First of all, we should just stay home and get in touch with ourselves. Secondly, now we need people to build the track and maintain the cars and drive the train and maintain everything. Technology ends up running us and not the other way around. This will come in a huge way with Henry David Thoreau. And one of my assignments traditionally has been for you to go without technology for a day and then write about it. So that might be an assignment that's coming. And of course, we have movies like WALL-E, right? And we have TVs were big and we were thin, but now we're a little more overweight and the TVs are thin. So there's the irony there. And this kid is on his Black Mirror, right? He should be playing, but you told me to go outside and play. All right, so these are all criticisms. And of course, we have tons of examples from our movies and our culture, from Frozen to the Lego movie that we'll be watching, that shows these examples. So you can criticize Emerson and Thoreau, but we also have movies that you enjoy and agree with. But oftentimes, Emerson and Thoreau seem didactic. They seem preachery. I mean, they are, in a way, preachers. I mean, Emerson was a preacher. So it feels like you're getting a homily. So if you feel like you're being preached to, well, you kind of are. And the emphasis is on the here and now in Transcendentalism. The past is unimportant. Knowledge comes from experience. It is not derived from studying the past. We can't learn anything truly valuable from the past or from people who lived before us. Old ways for old people. New ways for new people. I'm paraphrasing Emerson. Their knowledge was based on their experience. We should base our laws on our experience. We should not worship anybody or anything that has come before us. This is a radical idea, guys, radical. And here I have Evan Maloney. I think he's a sophomore up there at RIT, former AP superstar, doing a public presentation that you guys will be doing as well. There's Camellia. There's some other characters doing some public speaking in my class. And I think that's it. All right, that's the overview of Transcendentalism. Hope you have that in your notes. I'll see you in class. Take care, guys.